Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining again for another Lighten Up Project episode. I am so glad that you're here, and I am so glad to bring this next guest, to share this next guest in our conversation with you, because this next guest is one of my favorites. He is known as, the greatest when it comes to TEDx talks. He holds the world's record for TEDx talks. He has long surpassed everybody else, and I think 13 now. 13 TEDx talks, and he is also known as the mental health comedian. He tells all about his struggles with mental health, and just talks about mental health in general, and he makes us laugh while doing it. He is the greatest mentor and teacher I could have, or one of the greatest I could have, as far as speaking and making money. And I bring all of that to you. He is none other than Frank King. Hey, Frank.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Yeah.
We should let the audience know that I'm not here voluntarily. This is part of a plea bargain. Just want to make sure everybody realizes that. Even all the nice things Malcolm said about me. I'm kidding. I am good. It's a beautiful day here in Eugene, Oregon. The sun is shining. It's 51 degrees. It's a lovely winter day here in Oregon.
Oh, I forgot to mention he is also a bodybuilder.
That's true.
Bodybuilder.
60 no.
62 bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, Frank, can we go ahead and start this with 20 seconds of spontaneous laughter? Would you join me in that?
Yeah, what's that look like, Malcolm?
Just laughing.
Okay.
Spontaneously laughing.
Oh, I thought you would tell a joke. You mean laugh.
Yeah, just laugh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, huh?
Yes, very impressive.
Never done that before.
Well, there's the first for everything.
Yeah, people say I can't act.
Yes.
I acted like I was married happily to my first wife for 5 years. Come on.
Hey-o.
Oh.
So Frank, tell me about your background. So let's go to, when was the first time that you realized that laughter and play was the way to go for you?
Oh, easy. 4th grade, 9 years old, Mrs. Dark's classroom. I was supposed to wear glasses, Malcolm. My entire family is terribly nearsighted. I wrote a joke that we were descended from the people of the island of myopia, which means nearsighted. An island that was conquered over and over because they never saw the enemy coming. Anyway, I was supposed to be wearing glasses, and we're talking in the early 1960s. There were no fashion frames. Men had these black plastic sort of Buddy Holly, Ray-Ban, which are now very popular, but back then, not so much. Women had the cat eye glasses. several colors. And I couldn't see the board. And Mrs. Dark knew that, and she knew I should be wearing my glasses. But I'm terribly vain, and I didn't want to wear my glasses. So she decided that what was keeping me from wearing my glasses was I was worried the other kids would make fun of me. So she thought, let's tear the Band-Aid off all at once. She got me to the front of the room, turned me away from the class, put my glasses on me, turned me back to the class so all the kids could see me in my glasses. And then she looks down and she goes, see, you look intelligent. I looked up at her, first joke I ever told, ad lib. I looked up at her and said, yes, that would explain all the laughter. She was laughing so hard at that, she had to excuse herself to go to the teacher's lounge. At that moment, I decided I am going to be a comedian. Years later, I saw her at the Winn-Dixie grocery store. I said, Mrs. Dark, can I ask you a question? She goes, sure. Why did you excuse yourself to go to the teacher's lounge after I, told what essentially was a joke? She goes, Frank, I was laughing so hard, I was afraid you'd misinterpret it would break your heart. And then she said, what are you doing for a living now? And I said, stand-up comedy. And she said, duh. So 9 years old, fourth grade, Mrs. Dark's class. I mean, I can nail it down to the year and the classroom and the teacher. And then 12th grade, I was going to be an actor. So I took 3 years of drama in high school. Never got a speaking part in any of the school plays. And I'm not that bright, but I did see a pattern. So when the spring semester of my senior year rolled around, they said there's a talent show. I thought, you know what? If I do stand-up, I can write, produce, direct, and star in my own show. So I did. First person ever to do stand-up at that talent show, and I won. Of course, Malcolm. I beat the accordion player and the folk dancers. Wasn't a big victory, but, it was still a victory.
Still,
so that's
yeah.
I got it. And then in 1984, after college, I was moved to San Diego by an insurance company I was working for. And it just so happens in San Diego, there's a branch of the world-famous Comedy Store, the one up on Sunset. So that was the beginning of the end of my professional, business career. I went to open mic night on April 1st, 1984, April Fool's Day. Halfway through my 5-minute set, I heard a voice inside my head, you're home. And 18 months later, I said to my girlfriend, now my wife of 38 years, I'm going on the road to be a comic. Do you want to come along for the ride? Figured she'd go, hell no. She goes, yeah. So we gave up our apartment and our jobs, jumped into my tiny little Dodge Colt, and we were on the road together 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop, no home, just club to club to club. So all began in fourth grade at age 9 when I decided I'm going to be a stand-up comedian.
Wow. That's beautiful. I never heard that story before. Have you ever told a joke on stage that unexpectedly opened someone up?
How do you mean?
Like, I forgot. And you told a joke on stage and then you weren't expecting this reaction, but afterwards, this person comes to you and says, wow, Frank, that joke it made me think about my life totally differently. It opened me up emotionally. Of course, they're not going to say that necessarily, but basically what I'm asking is, have you ever told a joke that someone reacted to and enjoyed unexpectedly?
No.
Okay.
However, in my speaking career on suicide prevention, I have had people come up and say things like, I feel exactly the same way about my mental illness. I just didn't know how to say that. And you said it so well. That I have had.
You make a great point. This is one of the reasons why I did stand-up comedy for a decade, and then I was really happy, getting the laughs and, having people laugh at my jokes and everything, but I wanted more, and I I wanted more of that depth that speakers get, that you just talked about. However, stand-up comics could get to that same depth as well. So my question to you is, do you think you have the same connection and the same ability with audiences to make a difference as a comic as you do as the mental health comedian, the speaker?
No. It was something I wanted to make a living and a difference for the longest time, Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to San Diego, we moved to San Diego. I started comedy. I left with my lovely girlfriend, now my wife. We came back in the mid-90s. And I'd always wanted to make a living and a difference. I just had no idea how. So I joined the San Diego chapter of the National Speaker Association. And I was terribly professionally jealous because everybody there was making a difference. They all had content. Matter of fact, I was militant about it. If you ask people who knew me or know me from then, they would tell you my tagline at the time was, Frank King, making a living, not a difference. So only because I was I could never figure out how I could make that difference. And then after the recession, after I almost killed myself because we filed bankruptcy, a meeting planner said to me, Frank, listen, we love you. We can't pay you $5,000 just to be funny at a corporate event anymore. You got to teach them something. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned that to Judy Carter, who wrote the book, The Message of You. She also wrote the Comedy Bible, the New Comedy Bible. But she wrote the book, the Message of You, Turn Your Life into a Money-Making Speaking Career. She gave me a copy. She goes, Frank, you're smart. Read the book. You'll figure it out. I went into it, Malcolm, thinking I got nothing. Halfway through, because Judy takes you by the hand, she wants you to find your heart story, the one you cannot help but tell, the one that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Halfway through, I thought, oh, my Lord, I do have something to talk about. I mean, given that depression and suicide run in my family, they're more nuts in my family, Malcolm, than in a squirrel turd. The fact that I lost 2 family members, I'm a 2-time loss survivor. The fact that I came close to killing myself, and I have 2 mental illnesses. I thought, I could keynote on suicide prevention if I got some training. So I did. My second thought was, okay, now wait a minute. Who's going to take me seriously after 2.5 decades of comedy? So I did my first TEDx talk, start the conversation on suicide. And 2 other TEDx events called and said, do you have any more mental health topics? Oh, yeah. That's how I got number 2 and number 3. So I realized I could do something, and the meeting planners and the speakers bureaus realized I could do something literally deadly serious with humor, not jokes, but funny personal anecdotes. And it is far more rewarding. Comedy, I love doing comedy. The great thing about going back, say, to a cruise ship and doing stand-up for a week, now that I'm a speaker, it's so much easier because I'm not trying to make a point. I'm not there to save anybody's life. I can just get up and be funny. So it's the hard part for me, Malcolm, was, as a comic, you're getting a laugh every 10, 12, 15 seconds. I mean, it's instant gratification, or not, I guess, depending on the show. But speaking, that's what I struggled with in the first year, was there's long periods of silence. They're paying attention, but there's no feedback. And so it took me a while to adjust to that lack of response. But I realized that the difference in comedy, I take them to laughter and laughter and laughter. When I speak, I want to move them from pole to pole, from laughter to laughter to tears, move them emotionally. And because somebody once said, they won't remember what you said, they will remember how you made them feel. Mm-hmm. And a woman come up to me after a banquet, an event in Iowa, agricultural speech. She goes, you made me laugh twice and cry once. I said, well, my job is done. So it's a much broader range of emotion. And those, I do a little general Q&A at the end and then say, look, if you have a story to share or question you want to ask and you don't want to ask in front of everybody, I'll hang out an extra 30, 45 minutes. There's always a line, sometimes 2 people, sometimes 10. And I mean, I've heard some hair-raising stories. Because what I've done is, by going on stage and being vulnerable, I've given them permission to give voice to their feelings and experiences surrounding this topic. And many of these conversations start like this. I've never told anybody this. Yeah, I get that a lot. It almost is them waiting for somebody to bring it up, to feel comfortable sharing it. So,
when was the first time that humor, not necessarily comedy, not necessarily jokes, play, when was the first time that it saved you your sanity?
Actually, in January of 84, it's my 4th TEDx talk, Suicide, the Secret of My Success.
Mm-hmm.
January of 84, I had my first thoughts of suicide because I was married, wonderful woman, high school sweetheart, college sweetheart. We just didn't belong together. I was selling insurance, which is a great business, but I hated it with a purple passion. And I was not doing stand-up. I was not going to open mic night because my wife did not want me to do that. That's not what she wanted me to do. And so I realized after that thought of suicide that if I didn't make some changes and quick, I was going to kill myself sooner rather than later. My second thought was, now, wait a minute. I could divorce my wife, quit my job, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, here comes the joke. I can still kill myself. That's how I got into comedy. I had nothing to lose, Malcolm. Nothing. Because if I stayed put, I was a dead man. So, and I went and, that first open mic, I'm sure was, if I look back now or hear a recording, it was probably, god awful. But it cemented the fact that that's where I belong. So I would say that was the first incident where, had it not gone well that night at the Comedy Store, I might not be sitting here, but it did go well, and I knew I was in the right place.
Okay. Very good. Frank, what does lighten up mean to you?
Don't take life so seriously. Mm-hmm. Nobody makes it out alive, Malcolm. Nobody. Yeah, it's too long and too hard not to every now and then, because comedy, Malcolm, you know this, is tragedy plus time. Oftentimes, looking back, you can see the funny in whatever it was, the irony, the whatever. Sometimes it takes some distance, but almost always when you look back, there's something funny about whatever it was. I've got 25 minutes on my 2 heart valve operations, double bypass, heart attack, and 3 stents. All very traumatic. Mm-hmm. Some life-threatening. But right. Yeah, I've got 25 minutes of comedy on that. Looking back, I was able to write stand-up based on those experiences.
So as I mentioned at the very beginning in your intro, that you are a great mentor for me. I have some other mentors like Wendy Liebman. She was a great mentor and influence over my timing. The audience will be able to see an interview with her later on. She's coming up.
Oh.
And let's see. Well, many others. I'm not even going to name drop everyone right now. Let's focus on you. So you are a great mentor for me.
Thank you.
Who is the first person that made you feel safe or heard or seen?
Oh, my mom.
Why?
Because at age 4, as I was getting ready for a bath, I said to my mother, "Can I be a police officer?" Or policeman, probably. at 4, probably policeman. And she said, and I thought everybody's parents said this to them. She said, honey, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I said, could I grow hair on my chest? And she said, well, given time. And then I flipped it on her. I said, could you? And she said, well, I guess if I put my mind to it, And when I got ready to leave my first wife, actually, she left me, bless her heart, thank her for doing it. I said, let's get back together, because we gotten separated. She goes, no, you're lying to me and you're lying to you. You don't want to do comedy part-time. You want to be a comic since 4th grade. You need to go and do that. She said, what makes you think you can do stand-up? I said, because my mama told me I could do anything I put my mind to. And my ex-wife actually said out loud, I hate she told you that. I know. Why would you? Yeah. But she gave me the mental illness. She gave me cholesterol roughly of a deep fat fryer. She also gave me her sense of humor. She was extremely funny, very witty, sort of a Suzanne Sugarbaker designing women, witty, funny.
Right.
Funny. Yeah, my sister's very funny. The gift she gave my sister and myself, which didn't always pay off with adults, was she said you could say anything. She believed a child could say anything to an adult that they wanted to, as long as my mother would say, kept a civil tongue in their head, meaning it was polite. And so, it got me and it got my sister in trouble occasionally and expelled on occasion from school, because it was very polite, but the teacher didn't. I was in chemistry class, and Mrs. Templeton put the answer to the question on the board, and I thought I was wrong. She goes, here's the answer to the question. And I said, Miss Templeton, I don't think that's the right answer. And she said, it is the right answer. And I said, well, I beg to differ. She goes, you're going to beg to differ from home, young man. You're going to be suspended. So, it seemed like a really polite way. And a friend of mine goes, wait a minute. What high school student says, I beg to differ? Well, if you grow with my mother, and let me give you my sister's wit and how she was in Mrs. Rice's math class. Mrs. Rice did not like her from hello. I don't know why. My sister's a darling. But Mrs. Rice put a problem on the board and said, can anybody solve this? And so she called on the 4 children at points of the compass around my sister. Mm-hmm. My sister had her hand in the air, but she's calling on these kids that didn't. So when she got to the 4th kid, in desperation, he goes, Ms. Rice, Jane had her hand up. So Ms. Rice turns to my sister and says, Jane, did you have your hand up? And my sister said, yes, ma'am, but don't worry, it won't happen again. And my mother would tell you, it never did. But that was the gift. That was one of the gifts. Yeah, my sister and I both have a little difficulty with authority, I think, for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
We were endowed with that ability from a young age to speak to adults if we were polite. So that was another gift that my mother gave us.
What's one small overlooked moment of joy that some of our listeners should really pay attention to?
Well, as I mentioned, Malcolm, have had 2 aortic valve replacements, double bypass, heart attack, 3 stents. I've totaled 2 or 3 cars. And I think the moment a lot of people miss is when you wake up in the morning on the right side of the grass.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm living on borrowed time, I'm upside down alone. So just waking up in the morning, I think be grateful when your eyes pop open and you're not below the sod, you're above it.
Right. Yes. Agreed. If you could change one thing about mental health right now, what would it be?
It's what I'm striving to do. It's to make talking about mental health, mental illness, suicide, depression as easy as talking about the weather or sports.
Right. Okay.
Because I think that costs us a lot of people because they're afraid to say something if they're suicidal. Because Malcolm, if you you say something about being suicidal in front of the wrong person, like maybe a therapist or a psychologist, chances are you're going to get locked down for 72 hours in a all expenses paid, all inclusive mental health facility. Mm-hmm. So I think if we allowed people to talk about it without having to worry about being locked down for 72 hours, they may be more forthcoming.
Yeah. Okay. So if one of our listeners out there feels alone or invisible, what would you want them to hear?
Well, if they oftentimes people with mental illness feel it's just them, which leaves you very lonely. I thought the two mental illnesses I had, especially one of them, I thought it was just me, that I was just some kind of freak. And come to find out, it's rare, but it is not an unheard of condition. So I would say what you need to do is get evaluated for, if you're struggling mentally, just get evaluated. What is it? Is it depression? Is it the depressive, part of bipolar? Is it schizoaffective disorder? And then find out what it is. And you'll quickly realize, wait a minute, it's a thing? And I'm not alone. I've had people come up after my keynote. I have chronic suicidal ideation, which means for me and people like me, the option of suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. And when I say small, I tell the audience, look, a couple of years ago, my car broke down. I had 3 thoughts. 1, get it fixed. 2, buy a new one. 3, hell, I could just kill myself. The benefit of telling that out loud is almost every time I've done it, there's been one person in the audience who has chronic suicidal ideation. They have no idea it has a name. Young woman came up after a college show, said, thanks for the keynote. I said, you're welcome. She goes, but I got to tell you, it made me weep. Why did it make you weep? She goes, you know the story about the car? Yeah. Well, I've been having those thoughts all my life. I thought it was just me. I didn't know it had a name. I thought I was a freak. And then I heard you say you have it, and it has a name, and I realized I was not alone, and I wept. That, again, is the benefit of starting the conversation.
Yeah.
So if you're living with a mental illness, I had a guy comment on my first TEDx on YouTube. He's a middle-aged fellow, lovely daughter, darling wife, good job. He said the post, to me, I couldn't remember the last time I was happy. I thought it was just me. And then I watched your TEDx, and I realized, hold on, a lot of people go through this. It was a great relief to know he was not alone.
So another great message that you put out there is just, you're not alone. You don't necessarily say it. You don't say those words, but you're saying to people, you are not alone.
Yes, and if you are struggling with something like that, my advice is tell anyone you know, love, and trust.
Okay.
So they can be there for you if things melt down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like NASCAR. You don't hire a pit crew if you're a NASCAR driver. You don't hire the pit crew when you roll into the pit. They're waiting on you. Gas, oil, tires. So you need to let them know. You're anybody you know, love, and trust. This is what I'm living with. This is how you can help if things go sideways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's something about our society too. There's so much stigma around mental health and those issues, and a lot of people, we don't know how to talk about it. So I really thank you for doing what you do to help us start a conversation. It's great. That is beautiful. I love what you're doing, Frank.
Thank you.
What's one other rule about society and and when I say society, I mean American society.
Mm-hmm.
And what's one rule, unspoken rules, either spoken or unspoken rule or stigma besides that of mental health that you would you think we should all quietly stop following or start talking about more?
Well, Malcolm, my 5th TEDx talk was mental health and the orgasm. Treat your depression single-handedly. Because I'm always searching for a holistic, natural, inexpensive or free way to improve your mental health without any side effects. That was the premise. And I thought, I wonder if, orgasm, sex by yourself or with someone else actually improves your mental health. And turns out, guess what? It does. It raises oxytocin, it raises DHEA, it lowers cortisol. And so I did a whole TEDx talk on that topic. One of the facts I give, 94% of men admit they do it. 76% of women admit they self-pleasure. And I said to the audience, the rest of them are just lying. It's almost, you think Suicide and depression and mental illness is difficult to talk about, and rarely does anybody talk about it. But masturbation, I think, actually outscores mental health, mental illness when it comes to not talking about it. And everybody does it, and it is healthy. 21%, men who self-pleasure more than 21 times a month have a 20% lower rate of prostate cancer. So I said to the audience, if 21 is the threshold, at this moment in time, I'm immortal. It was a great, it got a standing ovation.
Oh, yeah.
There was science. There was some sociology in it. I covered world religions and how they felt about it. I joined the Mile High Club. I was by myself, so I got an individual membership. But yeah, that's the thing. It's the thing everybody does that nobody talks about, and we should be doing more of it because it's really good for your, whether it's with somebody or not, it's really good for your health. So I would say that's the. And here's something else, because I get this question occasionally about comedy and mental health, mental illness. People often wonder how I can get away with being funny about suicide, depression, so forth. I said, well, here's a rule in comedy. You can make fun of any group to which you belong. If I was neurotypical, I couldn't get away with any of that. But because I live with all that, I have license to make fun, poke fun, make people laugh about it. So that's another one of those sort of unwritten rules of comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I thank you for mentioning that. I know our audience thanks you for that. Now, you can go down to our show notes. You can read, and I don't know why I say down. Go down, like I'm pointing down. The show notes
it's right there.
Oh, it's right here. No, you can go to our show notes, and you can see all links to Frank's TEDx talks, and his website and everything else. But Frank, is there one way that you would like to mention how people can connect with you?
Oh, sure. Mentalhealthcomedian.com. Mentalhealthcomedian.com.
Mentalhealthcomedian.com.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, Frank, this has been a wonderful discussion. What's one thing that you would like our listeners to remember when this episode ends?
Well, it'll be the way I would close a podcast, Malcolm. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe and tell your friends. If you did not enjoy this podcast, well, we hope you have no friends.
All right. Well, hey, that is Frank King, and oh, wow, what a treat he is. Okay, so I am Malcolm Grissom, stand-up CEO and founder of the World Laughter Organization, and until next week, then you enjoy your week. Please come back next week. We will have yet another stimulating conversation with someone else. I won't tell you who, someone else. Go to our Facebook page, hint, hint, and you'll find out. But until then, remember, every smile can open a door. Every laugh can open a heart. And every step can be a victory. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Thank you. Stressed out, stuck, or leading on autopilot? It's not a motivational problem, it's a connection problem. My weekly virtual improv classes boost engagement, collaboration, and retention, all while having fun. Register now for a complimentary month.